The week of April 13 through 17 on Days of Our Lives may look, at first, like a transitional stretch before a major return. But the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes that this is not just setup. This is pressure-building television. This is the kind of week where the show starts shifting emotional ground beneath several characters at once, so that when the real explosions come, they feel earned, personal, and impossible to stop. Because all across Salem, people are reaching the point where secrets are becoming harder to manage. Some are trying to protect the people they love. Some are trying to stay ahead of exposure. And some are still playing games as if there will be no consequences, even though those consequences may already be moving toward them. So let's break it all down. One of the smartest things Days of Our Lives may be doing this week is making Chad matter before he even steps back on screen. That kind of writing is rarely accidental. When a show keeps bringing up a character's return in dialogue, it is usually preparing the audience emotionally before the character begins affecting the plot directly. And that seems to be exactly what is happening here. Chad coming home with the kids is not being treated like a casual family update. It feels more like a quiet signal that Salem is about to shift. What gives this extra weight is the timing. Chad's return is being positioned alongside the looming reading of Stefano's will, which instantly pushes the story beyond simple reunion territory. This is no longer just about seeing Chad reconnect with family. It is about what his presence means inside the larger DiMera power structure. The moment Stefano's name starts resurfacing in connection with money, legacy, and control, every family dynamic becomes more charged. That is why these repeated mentions matter. They are not only keeping Chad in viewers' minds. They are slowly rebuilding the sense that the DiMeras are moving toward another internal realignment. And Chad is often most effective in that kind of material because he brings more than sentiment. He brings history, he brings old loyalties, unresolved grief, and a quieter kind of authority that can still disrupt the balance of the family. So before Chad officially arrives on April 21st, the week of April 13th through the 17th of may be doing something more strategic than it first appears. It may be setting the emotional stage for a return that does not just add another character back into the mix, but reactivates older tensions that have been waiting for the right moment to rise again. That is why Chad's presence already feels important. Not because he is here yet, but because Salem is already reacting as if something bigger is coming with him. Meanwhile, the Lexi story has the potential to become one of the most emotionally loaded developments of the week, not simply because Lexi is alive, but because of how that truth may reach Abe. A miracle can bring relief. But a miracle wrapped inside secrecy, manipulation, and delayed truth can also bring pain. And that is where this storyline starts becoming far more complicated than a standard shocking reveal. Kat being rattled by Lexi's awakening and by the chaos EJ is unleashing fits perfectly with the tone of this plot, because Lexi's survival does not arrive as clean good news. It arrives tangled in moral fallout. The revelation forces every connected character to confront an uncomfortable question. What did you know, and why did you let it continue? For Abe, that question could hit hardest of all. Sooner or later, he is going to learn the truth. But the emotional damage will depend on what version of the truth reaches him first. If Theo is the one who tells him Lexi is alive because of EJ and Dr. Rolf, then the initial impact may be disbelief followed by overwhelming emotion. But once Abe realizes Paulina has known for a while and kept that knowledge from him, the story could turn sharply from shock into betrayal. Because Abe may eventually understand the circumstances. What may be harder to forgive is being denied the right to face that reality himself. Learning that your daughter is alive is life-changing. Learning that your spouse let you remain in the dark while carrying that truth alone is something else entirely. That kind of secrecy creates emotional distance immediately. It can make love feel conditional. It can make protection feel paternalistic. And it can leave the person who was excluded wondering whether trust still means what they thought it meant. So this may not be a storyline driven only by the huge reveal of Lexi's survival. It may become even stronger because of the quieter damage underneath it, the hurt, the confusion, and the anger that come when someone realizes the people closest to them decided they could not handle the truth. That makes this story powerful not just as a twist, but as a deeply personal fracture inside Abe and Paulina's marriage. Sophia's story is entering a more suspenseful phase now, because the threat around her is no longer only what she has done. It is what she may do next if she senses the truth closing in. Sophia has always been unstable, impulsive, and capable of pushing things too far. But this week suggests a more dangerous version of the character could be emerging. One under pressure, one being cornered, and one who may start making faster, messier decisions to protect herself. Kristen potentially having another strategy session with Sophia says a lot on its own. It suggests Sophia is still being pulled into bigger revenge games, especially Kristen's effort to make EJ suffer through Johnny. That is important because Sophia is not just a loose cannon acting alone. She may still be operating inside a broader web of manipulation, which gives her both encouragement and direction at a time when she should be under more scrutiny. But the bigger development may be Tate's progress. Getting the bottle with Sophia's fingerprints is not just a small win. It may be the first sign that suspicion is beginning to harden into evidence. And once a story crosses that line, the tone changes. It is no longer just rumor, instinct, or emotional accusation. It becomes the possibility of proof. That is exactly the kind of turning point that can destabilize someone like Sophia. Because if she starts to believe Brady and Tate are building a real case against her, she may stop thinking defensively and start acting desperately. That could mean trying to redirect suspicion, destroy evidence, manipulate someone emotionally, or strike before she is exposed. And in many soap stories, that is the moment when a schemer becomes most unpredictable. Not when they feel powerful, but when they feel time running out. That is why this plot may be stronger than it first appears. The real suspense is not simply whether Sophia targeted Holly. The real suspense is what happens once Sophia realizes other people may be close to proving it. And if panic takes over, exposure may not calm this story down. It may blow it open. Sarah and Brady may be getting closer, but the real danger could be Xander's collapse. This storyline feels more complicated than a standard romantic triangle because Xander's emotional life and his criminal exposure are starting to close in on each other at the same time. Sarah heating things up with Brady is, on the surface, the most visible part of the story. It is the kind of development that naturally invites jealousy, wounded pride, and emotional retaliation. Xander is not likely to take that lightly, especially if he starts to feel that Brady is stepping into a space he still sees as his. But what gives this plot more weight is that Sarah and Brady's growing connection may hit Xander at the exact moment when he is already becoming unstable for other reasons. And that changes everything. Because Xander is not just dealing with romantic frustration. He is carrying the pressure of his recent money laundering move, and that kind of secret has a very different kind of danger attached to it. Romance can bruise the ego. Criminal exposure can destroy a life. If both pressures start building at once, then Xander may no longer be reacting from a place of wounded emotion alone. He may be reacting from fear. A man who feels rejected can be impulsive. A man who feels rejected while also sensing his world could financially or legally implode can become far more erratic. He may start overcompensating. He may become more territorial, more reckless, or more aggressive in the way he tries to regain control. And in Salem, characters often become most dangerous not when one thing goes wrong, but when multiple cracks begin spreading through their lives at once. That is why Sarah and Brady growing closer may not be the whole story. It may simply be the emotional trigger that pushes Xander further toward a breaking point that was already forming underneath the surface. So while the romance angle will get attention, the stronger dramatic question may be this: what happens when a man who is already hiding something serious starts losing control of the people around him too? Because that is when messy can turn into destructive. Two of the more understated arcs this week may end up carrying some of the richest emotional tension, because both Gabby and Leo seem to be approaching moments where private feelings can no longer stay passive. With Gabby, the issue is guilt. She is still hiding a Titan-related secret from Philip, and what makes that compelling is not just the secret itself, but the emotional wear that comes with holding it too long. Soap guilt is rarely quiet for very long. It tends to reshape the character from the inside out. It changes tone, body language, timing, and instinct. A person who is hiding something important may still smile, still flirt, still insist everything is fine. But the relationship begins to weaken anyway, because truth has already started pulling emotional energy out of it. The real threat may not be a dramatic confession blurted out in one explosive moment, at least not yet. The deeper threat is that guilt may start affecting how she responds to Philip before the truth is even spoken. She may hesitate when she should feel close. She may seem distracted when she should feel secure. She may overcorrect, deflect, or become emotionally uneven in ways Philip cannot fully explain, but can definitely feel. And that is what makes this kind of story effective. Sometimes a secret does not destroy a relationship because it is revealed. Sometimes it destroys the relationship by quietly poisoning trust before either person even says the word. Leo's story, meanwhile, is moving in a different emotional direction. His apparent decision that he wants Javi back gives the storyline a sharper center, because it suggests Leo may be done treating his feelings like something temporary or negotiable. That matters. Leo often uses humor, chaos, and performance as shields, so when he reaches genuine emotional clarity, it tends to land harder than expected. But clarity does not guarantee success. Javi's new boyfriend immediately turns Leo's realization into a real obstacle, and that is where the story becomes more than simple longing. Leo is no longer just sitting with regret. He is being forced to confront competition, timing, and the possibility that he may have understood his feelings too late. That raises the stakes in a more human way. Because wanting someone after they have started moving on creates a very specific kind of pain. It forces urgency. It strips away fantasy. It demands action. Leo now has to decide whether this is a moment of sincere emotional courage, or whether he is reacting because he cannot stand the idea of being replaced. That tension is what could make this story resonate. Gabby is wrestling with the burden of what she has not said. Leo is wrestling with the cost of what he may not have admitted soon enough. Different stories, different emotional rhythms, but both are moving toward a reckoning. And once those inner conflicts become impossible to hide, the fallout usually follows fast. The week of April 13th through the 17th of May not deliver every payoff immediately, but that is exactly why it matters. This is the week where Days of Our Lives seems ready to tighten the screws. Chad's return is getting closer. Abe's world may be on the verge of being shattered by truth. Sophia could be closer to exposure than she realizes. Xander's emotional and criminal problems are colliding. Gabby's guilt is growing, and Leo may be done pretending he can move on from Javi. So this is not filler. This is the week where tension starts becoming direction. And in Salem, once that happens, everything can change fast.